Every few years, the Pacific Ocean gets a fever, and the symptoms spread all the way around the world. It's happening again. El Niño is back, and it looks like it's going to be a big one.
What I see really looks very concerning to me, Steve. I'm seeing really warm sea surface temperatures in the equatorial East Pacific that would be indicative of a strong El Niño.
A strong El Niño can mean big consequences, from droughts in Brazil and southern Africa to floods in East Africa and the southern United States. So why do warm seas in one place mess with the weather worldwide? Let's start in the tropical Pacific Ocean. The sun heats up the water. Normally, winds from the east push that warm water into the western Pacific.
So you have this huge warm pool that straddles the Indo-Pacific Ocean around the maritime continent of Indonesia. And this is where rising motion occurs and cloud formation, heavy rainfall.
Warm air rising off the warm water is like a pair of conveyor belts fitted with leaky buckets. They lift humid air and dump rain. What goes up must come down. On the downside of the conveyor belt, the buckets are empty. Dry air descends over the Arabian Sea, and on the eastern belt, dry air descends over the eastern Pacific. But every 3 to 5 years or so, the winds that push the Pacific hotspot west, they get weaker. That's the first stage of El Niño.
With an El Niño, the warmest water in the Pacific shifts to the east, and this produces ascending motion over that warm water in the central Pacific, but then descending motion over the maritime continent.
The descending conveyor belts with their empty buckets dry out Southeast Asia. To the east, dry air descends over northern South America. That means a risk of drought, crop losses, and wildfires in both places. But the impacts don't stop there.
When that descending motion reaches the surface, it diverges. That is, some of it goes back towards the Pacific, but some goes into the Indian Ocean. And that diverging air mass at the surface is tending to push warm water towards the western Indian Ocean.
Rising from the western Indian Ocean, warm water conveyor belts dump heavy rain on Somalia, Kenya, and eastern Ethiopia. That's good news. After 5 failed rainy seasons, the region is on the brink of famine. But too much rain is not good either.
We would want them to have good rain, abundant rainfall, enough to replenish the reservoirs, and also that is healthy for the crops. But frequent flooding gonna definitely be a problem.
While East Africa faces floods, it's a different story to the northwest and south.
It's very likely that we'll see suppressed rain over northern Ethiopia and potentially another really strong drought like we had in 2015. And then, if that persists, we could also see a drought over southeastern Africa, as we saw in 2016.
It depends how long El Niño lasts and how strong it gets. We'll know later this year. They usually last 9 to 12 months and peak between October and February. These forecasts are not guarantees. The weather is complicated, but El Niño raises the odds of extremes in much of the world.